Remember Game of Thrones? Remember how it was the peak of fiction for like a solid 8 years? And then the last season happened. Remember all the dynamic scenes shifting from character to character and from scene to scene, only to show us a cohesive and collected story that is not only complex but interesting enough for even the most absent-minded viewer to follow. Well, my friends, we finally have all of that ultra-dynamic, beauty-filled story come to anime. Minus the last season, I mean. And no, I don't mean that we're getting a Game of Thrones anime adaptation. We're getting the fairy tale Game of Thrones, which is Ranking of Kings, aka Osama Ranking, which is a 23 episode Witch Studio original anime. If that didn't already get you excited, then what I got to share with you surely will. I hope. Trying to write a spoilerless summary for this anime is practically impossible, which is kinda good, because it shows that most of the things that can be mentioned might be important to the story, and if I emphasize them in any way, then you might know that something is important that you may have not noticed in your own watch through. Instead, let me read you an official summary really quick. The people of the kingdom look down on the young Prince Boji, who can neither speak nor hear. They call him the useless prince, while jeering at his supposed foolishness. Jesus Christ, what the fuck does that even mean? Oh, it means they're mocking him. However, while Boji may not be physically strong, he's certainly not weak of heart. But a chance encounter with a shadow creature named Kage should have left him traumatized. It instead made him believe that he has found a friend amidst those who only choose to notice his shortcomings. He starts meeting up with Kage the Shadow regularly, to the point where even the otherwise abrasive creature begins to warm up to him. Kage and Boji's unlikely friendship lays the budding foundations of the prince's journey, one where he intends to conquer all of his fears and insecurities. Despite the constant ridicule he faces, Boji resolves to fulfill his desire of becoming the best king he can. Now, this summary doesn't exactly do the story justice. It even makes it seem a little like a very generic story of overcoming insecurities and reaching the top despite the evil haters. And it might even deter you from watching it, but please bear with me and the people who have already watched this anime, as this anime is, spoiler, already ranked number 28 on my anime list as of recording this video. And it's got only 5 episodes out. You can call it good or bad, whatever, I'm gonna call it good. And despite this, its popularity on the same website truly doesn't do it justice, and I hope I can do my part in spreading the word. Now, I did call the show the fairy tale Game of Thrones, and now we're only getting into the fairy tale part of it. Because this anime, in addition to the Game of Thrones similarities that I will touch on later, it has a very special vibe that only a masterclass studio like WIT could have pulled off. Ranking of Kings looks more like a children's show than the dark visuals that Game of Thrones offers, but it serves this anime all the more well. Maybe children's show is a little bit too on the nose, but its art is more reminiscent of a Disney-adapted Grim Tale, only anime-fied, but subtly injected with the morbid reality of the Grimm brothers' tales themselves. While we do see the cute character designs and vivid colors in the first episode, it is infused with an almost unsettling aura of distrust. And if you aren't convinced of the show's darkness, the next episode literally shows genocide. Like, no joke. Straight up ethnic cleansing. And all of those macabre things are amplified because of the contrast it makes with the colorful design of the world. Another thing that makes the show so fairy tale-esque is how it introduces its fantastical elements. There exist strange creatures and magic that only could be pulled off in a well-done soft world building. And even though they are so mystical, it still seems believable. Even if there aren't any concrete rules set upon the world, we never question when Boji gets healed to get his life saved, or when literally Satan himself materializes himself out of the late king's body only to point and laugh at the small prince. Instead, we look at them with amazement, as if we just watched the only true version of a quote-unquote adult fairy tale that could not have been realized in a more perfect way than in this show. So why did I call the show the fairy tale Game of Thrones? Well, that's because Game of Thrones is a good show, and it's good, believe it or not, because of its writing. Almost as good as subscribing to this channel would be. Ranking of Kings shares a lot of the same writing ideals with Game of Thrones, namely the insanely dynamic storytelling, which in Game of Thrones manifests itself in the form of jumping from character to character to tell you a story that is happening at the same time, slowly converging into the finale. Ranking of Kings does this in a similar way. While it doesn't necessarily have the same expansive world as Game of Thrones has, it still has the same energy. Well, in one show, we would jump from the north to King's Landing to the far deserts of Essos, because in Ranking of Kings we jump from Boji to Kage, Queen Hilling to Domas the Swordmaster, and the stories converge every now and then. In fact, it would be stupid to follow in the footsteps of Game of Thrones exactly, because that show has a 1-hour runtime, while in Osama Ranking we only have about 20 minutes. But the saturation of these episodes is absolutely insane, to the point where you're gonna feel like that at the end of each episode you might have watched a small movie instead. But this isn't the only thing that makes Ranking of Kings, or should I say Game of Thrones, this good. The other part that binds their worth together is the writing of their characters, where no character is exactly right or wrong, there are just characters with different goals and different backgrounds. And even though we know that Jon Snow is the protagonist, do we really even truly know who the actual villain is? Well, at least in Osama Ranking we don't. Because one episode we will see Boji's stepmother, Queen Hilling, belittling him and being cold towards him. Only that in the next episode she saves him and acts as warm as his real mother would have. We see the king's companions who align themselves with Boji and the ones who are against him, only for their roles to reverse in his time of need. Or maybe they even don't. I honestly couldn't tell you, because all of this is so well presented through the amazingly written dialogue. Well, at least more amazing than this video's script. And every time somebody says something, you will constantly be questioning whether they're speaking the truth or if they're trying to deceive the other characters or even the viewers themselves. But unfortunately, I can't tell you any more examples of this, because that would lead me to one of the things that Game of Thrones doesn't really attempt that much. And that is its absolutely impeccable plot twists. Yes, in the 5 episodes that this show has, it has managed to pull off more than just one beautiful plot twist that will have you start questioning whether anything you watched up to this point was actually even that good. Like, honestly, it made me question if stuff like Steins Gate is even really that good, because if it takes an anime so long to pull off a couple of twists, while this show does that in such a short amount of time and with even more content on top of that, is it really even that good then? No hate, definitely no hate to Steins Gate there. And let me remind you that this show is being produced by the same studio that had Vivi, Vinland Saga, and the fucking literal Attack on Titan. So I hope that this does tell you something about its quality, because which studio so far didn't have a miss, and Osama Ranking is showing itself to be one of their biggest hits yet. Honestly, if I still didn't convince you to watch it, I don't even know anymore. Just take my word for it, because I promise you, you won't regret it, and it's gonna be amazing. Hell, I even watched it twice already. Once, you know, alone, and once with a friend who was a bit skeptical, and now he's dying to see the next episode. Now, I would love to hear your thoughts on the video or of the show if you actually watched it, as I do reply to all of my comments, so please leave them down below, and go ahead and leave a like, as that will help this channel out tremendously, as well as subscribe for more videos like this in the future. But for now, my name is Mangosh, and I'll see you all next time.